Welcome back to our Bluesy Water channel. I want to do a quick video on what I call cellular level healing tools. 3 or 4 years ago, I started meditating on the simple question of how do you get to the cell? I noticed that certain structures in my body were no longer responding to typical therapy. And I'm like, is there anything that can get to the cell? Because at some point, no matter what you're doing, you're not able to permeate to get through deep into a cell. The body's building more roadblocks. So it's kind of a vicious negative cycle. The pathways to the cells are being blocked, and then the cells themselves are starting to degrade energetically. It's like batteries that go down. You're getting more gunked up, more toxins, and you could do all the fasting and all the typical processes, and yet the cell is still non-responsive. So you want literally, if you could reach in, let's say deep in your liver, and grab those cells and infuse the energy and clean them, wouldn't that be nice? And part of the protocol actually that I was using was mechanical cellular protocols, our vibration therapy program, for instance, where you take the rapid release tool, go straight on the liver while you stand on a vibration machine, but this is mechanical. So I was still seeking even more refined permeable therapies. And today I'm going to give you the list of those therapies. I'm just list them right out right now, the ones we're going to discuss. Number 1, hydrogen therapy, hydrogen Brown's gas therapy, incredibly cell permeable. Number 2, the Vortex, high frequency Vortex electrostatic charge therapy, incredibly permeable. Number 3, medical ozone therapy, another gas therapy, very, very, very permeable. Number 4 is what we call PEMF therapy. This is a wave that can get into the body, a magnetic pulsing wave, and get to the cell level. So we're going to go over some playlists. I'm just going to highlight these therapies and tell you what their key actions are. Please understand, each of these therapies has a strength, a forte. It's a tool, and you need to understand its action. If you integrate all these therapies, then you get the best results, because some of them have pros and cons. We're going to go over the list right now. Okay, so these are our playlists. Let's start off with the hydrogen therapy. So I'm going to briefly go over why this is an incredible microcellular therapy. Think of having a soaker hose on 100 feet of super scorched earth, and you want to soak down deep to the 100-foot layer. Essentially, this therapy permeates. The hydrogen molecule will go through steel. It is super permeable, go down literally to the RNA of the DNA of a cell. So the key with this therapy, particularly if you're older and you have a lot of inflammation, is to get going on it where you're doing it for longer periods of time. I do it all night long. So it's very critical you understand what I call therapeutic threshold. But at the end of the day, the hydrogen molecule is tiny, tiny, tiny. It will go through the most compromised structures. So if you have, let's say, deep compromise in the brain, it will get through, but it'll take time, layer by layer, and it will literally permeate down to every cell in the body. But it takes time to heal, and the more you do this therapy, the better the healing time. Its forte is inflammation, and when we get older, inflammation is an enormous issue. And cell rejuvenation. It will give the cell the building blocks to heal over time. The hydrogen molecule, we're made up of mostly hydrogen by volume. So hydrogen is the building block for all things in the universe, and this is an incredible cell permeable therapy. Number 2 is our high frequency Vortex electrostatic charge therapy. This comes out of Russia. I learned about this for Russian doctors. It's a very, very unknown therapy. Essentially, this and our third therapy, which is ozone therapy, work with lightning. You make ozone by corona discharge in a machine. Literally, you electrify the oxygen. In this case, you electrify your whole body. It's literally a field that is moving in a vortex. And it is an electrical field, an electrostatic field, and running at a very high frequency of 300,000 hertz. At the end of the day, what this does is it cuts through deep, deep, deep. When you start treating with this therapy, you're going to notice a radical detoxification. You must have practitioner support. The kidneys will go through a transformation, the liver. It's an incredibly penetrative, powerful cutting therapy. Has many, many health applications, but it does get deep into the body. I always say, just imagine if you were sitting 10,000 feet in the sky in the middle of a lightning storm and didn't get electrocuted, kind of like that. Now, it's very subtle. You're not going to actually, when you do this therapy, you're not going to notice anything. It's running at such a high frequency and refined level that even though you don't notice anything while you're doing it, you're going to notice incredible reactivity. That's why we have to monitor you with the kidneys, and it's just quite a penetrative field. Super subtle and super refined field. Okay, so we can also send you more information on any of these therapies, and you can look this up. This is pretty obscure. You're not going to find a lot on this. I was very lucky to dig this one up. Next therapy is home ozone therapy. Like hydrogen, this is a gas therapy. So what makes it possible to do it at home is the ability to get directly into the bloodstream through what's called rectal insufflation instead of using IVs. And when you electrify the oxygen, this gas becomes profound at knocking out microbes. There are other delivery systems to go. Let's say for the ears, you do ear insufflation, and for the sinuses, you do nasal insufflation. But the systemic part is what's called rectal insufflation. So this is very, very helpful, along with the Vortex therapy. If you've had years and years of, say, low-level viral infections, this will start to, if you do this properly and you integrate it with our antimicrobial program strategies, you can effectively knock out whatever's been in your body for a long, long period of time. But you need to do this with discipline. You need to, at the beginning, have an integrative approach, and then you can back off. And over time, you can even back off this therapy and end up doing more of the Vortex therapy. But for most people, you're going to need to bring all the combinations of therapies at the beginning. And if you do it wisely, you can get to therapeutic threshold with these therapies. That's therapeutic threshold is a very operative term. It means, can you get to the place where you're actually getting the action to do the job? Let's say you have Lyme disease. Therapeutic threshold for many has been 20 years of no success. They can't get there. There are protocols in Germany I know of that use tremendous high heat, almost kill you with heat. But this is a way, if you're smart, these protocols actually are very powerful, and when integrated, become 3-5 times more powerful as you start to get through that initial crisis stage. You can start to back off and do a maintenance program. So this uses the same principle of using electricity, lightning strikes in a machine called corona discharge to electrify the oxygen, and then you can at home do the rectal insufflation and go body systemic, and then do regional type therapies. The sinuses also get very toxic, and that's a second area that we encourage everybody to do, the sinus, and then there's the ear insufflation. Okay, the fourth therapy is PEMF therapy. PEMF therapy works because the magnetic pulsing field can go through the body. Let's say you have an issue somewhere, let's say you broke a bone. It can go through the body and get to every cell on that bone. It's permeable, and its number one forte is that it will pump the cell membrane, bringing in more oxygen, getting rid of toxins, and helping with microcirculation. Actually, for me, the number one forte of this therapy is that you can set it to very hypnotic, lower frequency settings such as theta, delta, alpha, and it'll relax your entire nervous system, because it literally, since it gets to every cell, it gets to every brain cell, every cell in your nervous system, it literally can entrain the nervous system into relaxation states and help with sleep and relaxation. But generally, it's a pulsing field, and its permeability is what makes it on the list of cell permeable. This therapy needs balance, especially if you're doing it all night long. A lot of the systems on the market are running at very low Gauss. This system we advocate, the Sedona, you can crank up the Gauss and you can turn it way down. So you have user control, has a huge range of frequencies, but it's very important to learn how to balance this therapy, particularly if you're going to do it long periods of time. And this is something that I discovered in my research working with this therapy. It needs balance. Every one of these therapies needs balance. Okay, so once again, we have hydrogen, Brown's gas hydrogen, the vortex field therapy, the ozone therapy, and this is the PEMF therapy. So real quick, I just want to go over the key actions of these cellular therapies. The ozone and the vortex are really good on microbes. They're fire therapies. You literally are electrifying the environment. With ozone, the oxygen, and with the vortex, your entire body. So they're fire therapies. That means inflammatory in nature, inflammation, pro-inflammatory, meaning a good use of fire. There's negative inflammation, and we're always trying to talk about anti-inflammatories, but the positive use of it, or the positive purpose of fire in a fireplace, is to burn the wood. Think of the wood as your toxins. The byproduct of the burn is embers, so you have to put out the embers after you burn the wood. Now, most people are bringing a wittily fire to a huge amount of toxins, so there's a lot of byproduct, and they're not effectively using the fire element. By doing these therapies, you get to a much higher threshold of using the fire element in a positive way. The PEMF therapy is also, it's you plug it in a wall. Most of these therapies you plug in a wall, and you can say they're fire oriented. It's a frictional therapy. It's a magnetic field that's pumping, so it's got friction to the field. So I put it in the category of a fire therapy. It's like there's friction in the pump. Now, the Brown's gas hydrogen is the one therapy that is absolutely a water therapy. It literally, its purpose is to put out the embers, to put out the fire of inflammation. So incredibly relaxing. If you have a lot of inflammation, you're going to feel blessed, but you do need to do it for long periods of time. In other words, if you have a ton of inflammation, then you'll do it, you could do it all night long and even still wake up with some inflammation and want to do it in the morning, depending on the level of toxins you're processing first thing in the morning. Alrighty, so these are excellent therapies. They all permeate deep into the body, and they all have key actions. So if you have any questions and want to do a consult and figure out what you're needing to do, which therapy is the most important therapy to start with, please contact me and we can set up consult. Alrighty, thank you. Take care.